Hello and welcome BitMonger family. Monger coming at you from my beautiful little bungalow in Thailand. Hope you guys are all doing well. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Bitcoin's price action, things that I'm seeing in the market, potential bottoms, which some people are predicting, and my thoughts on those predictions, along with some things that you might want to consider when you're managing your portfolio and managing risk. And a little bit of the price action that we're going to take a look at right now on Bitcoin. So first of all, I'll also talk a little bit about my visa. I've been gone for a few days. I had to deal with a visa situation, and I'll discuss that a little bit about Thailand and dealing with your visa. So first of all, let's take a look at Bitcoin. The video that I did about 3 days ago, I think it was, I had identified this area here. And I thought it was going to just bounce off this yellow line. I thought it was going to be range bound in between here, but it dropped further down and broke that level. So I got pushed out of that trade. I had longed it like right at this yellow line, and when it went under, I got kicked out of it, and it touched it here. Then it came back up, and then it dropped down, and I took a long on it here, guys, just earlier when it dumped down. And just so you guys know, these price points that I'm looking at right now are 67,723 with the top at 71,600, call it. So I'm trying to play this as range bound. If it breaks below this white line, then convincingly you'd want to see it get underneath this wick here and then see where it comes down to. I would suspect it's going to come down and test this orange line, which is at 66.7. Yeah, 66.7. And then if it breaks below that, then I would suspect it's coming down to this red line right here. And honestly, guys, I gotta say, for having that massive capitulation and then bounce back and reclaiming 69,000 like I thought it would, since it's a critical, it's the last cycle's high. I thought that was going to happen, and certainly it played out. But this is a critical level, and it hasn't convincingly broke above it. So, and if you look at the volume here, it's going down, right? So it's looking weak, guys. Honestly, for me to feel better about it, I would like to see it get back above where it had this massive capitulation from, preferably from this big red wick right here. And that's sitting like right around 78,350. I'd like to see it get above that. But even better would be to get to this white line here, which is at 81,250, call it, where we had this big red candle, and then it dropped, went sideways, and then we had that big capitulation. So we're trading back above it. We did break 69K, which is pretty good. We're currently trading at 69.5 roughly, and we'll have to see. The stock market, guys, Nasdaq's down slightly. So, the Bitcoin is very much correlated to stocks, guys. And if this sheds big time, I do suspect Bitcoin could crash much further. The speed in which we've gone down compared to previous cycles is also much, much faster. So people are talking about a left translated cycle, meaning that it happens quicker. We might get a bounce sooner. It's hard to say. The 4-year cycle theory played out. Whether or not it was real doesn't really matter, because the price is the only thing that we care about. And that's how you have to be looking at this in an objective way. Even though it didn't really make sense when the stock market and gold and everything else is going up, the fact that Bitcoin would be crashing at that time, I believe, was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So many people believed in the 4-year cycle that it just happened, and people sold. As we know, the whales were selling to the new ETF buyers. They dumped a huge amount. And the reason why they did it is because it was the first time in history they had the liquidity in which they could dump large amounts of Bitcoin without crashing the price. And that's, obvious. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin. The low range bound number that a lot of people are floating around is similar to the one that I had mentioned before. And that is like a 77% drawdown, or roughly a 70% drawdown on Bitcoin. And if that does happen, we're going into potentially like 38 to $41,000 in the event that were to happen. And if we take a look at the S&P, guys, I'm going to look at that again because it's something that we need to be considering. I'm going to look at this on the weekly chart to give you a better idea of what's going on. Let me fix this here. So I drew this channel, guys, and you can see where we are. And this is going all the way back to 2018, this high here on the top of the channel. And this is the COVID crash, right? And since then, we've been on a tear. And currently, we're like, based on this uptrending channel, we're like right about halfway in. To draw back down to touch the lower end of this channel is about a 20% drop. So could the S&P drop, 10% and still be in this this up channel, bull market channel? It certainly could. It could come down here and bounce off that. I don't know if that will happen, in the next, before, they run the economy hot. I don't know, but could it potentially come down quite a bit more and still be in this amazing uptrend? It certainly could, guys. Another thing that I think a lot of people are not talking about, and that is the amount of money that's allocated in the S&P 500 is in the Magnificent Seven, but even more so the Magnificent Four. If you look at the top 4 companies with inside the S&P 500, it's extremely outweighted more. It's skewed more than it ever has been in history. I think previously in the .com, I can't remember how many companies it was that were popular at the time. I think it was more like 10 or 15. So the concentration of money within inside a few large companies is kind of scary. So if we get bad numbers, whether it be on orders or the CPI for them to be producing these components, they're all big tech companies, as we know. That could cause a big shock in the markets. So something to consider. Have dry powder ready. Like I was saying, Bitcoin is to me, it hasn't really, blown up like I would like to have seen it. There's also a CME gap. I think it's hanging around 84,000 roughly. I would like to see us get near that. And eventually that will fill. But when, we don't know. But we shall see. Now, if you didn't get a chance to long it down here on the bottom, the next place where I'd be looking to potentially long it would be if it breaks this midline right here, and that's right at 69,687 is where I got it drawn out here, and it's also coming down from this line here. Looking at the 4-hourly chart, guys, and so if it actually comes down and it breaks this thing, I would look for it to break it, possibly come back down and retest it, and then if it retests this line and then starts to bounce off of it, that might be an area in which you could drop a long, and I would be looking to take profit as we get up towards this top white line, which is at $71,600, as I had mentioned before. So yeah, anyways, I'm in that trade. I nailed it down here, and I took half profit when we got to a little over 69,000, and I'm letting the other half of it run up, and I'll probably take profit if we get rejected here on this orange line. I've moved up my stop loss, so we'll see how that's going. But yeah, right now, guys, honestly, I do think this bounce rally that we got from Bitcoin is not as strong as I would like to see it. So hopefully, I do think this is probably going to roll over and it's going to go down, guys. Unfortunately, I'm just not feeling it. And I hope I'm wrong. I would like to see Bitcoin to get back up to those numbers, like I mentioned earlier. But until we see that happen, I'm going to remain a little bit more bearish than I am bullish on this. But I will look to long it when I see opportunities like if it's range bound like this, and that works well for me. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is asset allocation. I see this is a big mistake I see a lot of people making. And that is, one, when you have an asset that goes up massively in a short period of time, and let's say you only had, you should be looking at, it should be a diversified portfolio, and you should have like a set amount. So say it's 5% of your portfolio or 10%. And if that suddenly 3x's or 4x's and becomes, 25% becomes 20% of your portfolio. Well, generally speaking, when that type of thing happens, it's a really good time to be taking money off the table. A lot of people, they get greedy. They think it's going to keep going higher, and they don't take money off the table. When everybody's talking about something, and when it's breaking all-time highs, and there's a lot of media around it, that's generally a sign to be getting out of the market, taking money off the table. And that is something that's really difficult to do. A lot of people struggle to do this. So it's something that trading has actually helped me in terms of, selling, being a trader. Before I was just more of an investor. I would buy it and wait until a long time, and then I'd sell it. And that, which is good and fine. But if you don't click that sell button and you don't realize those profits, and then it rolls over, which I've seen it happen numerous times, and so many people can attest to not taking profits and then getting screwed. I'm telling you, you gotta get into the habit of taking profits, and you need to have a time horizon. Now, if you don't need to take the profits and you got a 5-year time horizon, 10-year time horizon on Bitcoin, then don't touch it. No big deal. It's just all white noise. You don't even really need to be paying too much attention. But if I personally like to take profits when I see something run up massively and then rotate it into something that isn't super hot, isn't getting all the discussion. And a good example right now would be the gold trade. That thing is absolutely ripped. It still could go higher, but when something goes up that much that quickly, it's generally a good time to take some money off the table if you got into it. And that's part of the reason why I sold that position of gold that I recently bought. It was more of a trade than it was a long-term hold, even though I am still bullish, and I think gold is a very good place to have. It's a good thing to have in your portfolio, without a doubt. But right now, would I buy a large position in gold at $5,000? No, no. I mean, I could be wrong long term. I think it's definitely going to go up, but I wouldn't want to be allocating a large amount of money into gold right now. I think, watch Bitcoin, see how low Bitcoin can go. Nibbling now, even at 69K, guys, generally speaking, is not a bad place. Like I said, the 200-week moving average is at like around 58K. It could drop below that. I'm thinking probably the average buyer price is around 55K. 40K could certainly happen if the stock market crashes. But if the stock market doesn't crash and continues to go sideways, what's the further downside that I could see on Bitcoin? I would say mid-low 50s maybe. If it continues to kind of stagnate, or we get a much of a small downturn in the stocks, I could see Bitcoin going down to those numbers. I think that for Bitcoin to get down to 40K though, we would need to see, a larger move in the stock markets, for them to go down to get that kind of number. But we shall see. Last thing I was going to talk about is the Visa. So guys, as I was saying, I was dealing with my Visa, for the past few days. On the weekend I was just chilling out, but on Monday I had to deal with my Visa, and I did it in Bangkok. And I decided to go with a retirement visa. I was going to use my wife, but they required a bunch of extra paperwork, which was a headache. And just having her be involved in the process of sitting there and dealing with that shit all the time, I just figured, fuck it, I'll just get the retirement visa. That way only I have to deal with the nonsense. and the paperwork is much more limited. Like for example, they wanted a paper stating that I was single before I married my wife. I got that from the embassy before, but I no longer have that. And in order to get that, they said that I had to go back to the office in which we registered the marriage, which was out in the middle of nowhere near my wife's house up in the mountains in Kanchanaburi. And I wasn't, I was going to want to go up there to deal with that. So anyways, this is one way to get your retirement visa. You got to be 50 and older. You get a non-immigrant O. And then they have these other ones that I'll look at in a bit, this high-end long-term resident visa. I think I might go for that in the future, just because it looks like there's some really good benefits that you get with it. But anyways, let's look at the standard one. There's two ways. You got to be over 50, and it allows you to stay for a year. You can do it. You can come here on a tourist visa and transfer it over. However, I hear a lot of people have problems opening up a bank account. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. It can be very difficult, and they've made it rough. In my situation, I've had a bank account in Thailand for over 20 years. Well over 20 years now. So it's not an issue. But this is one way you can get the 800,000 baht. You just put it in there. That's probably the simplest method, because all they want to see is that you got the money. You throw in 800,000 baht, you have it in your Thai bank account. They stamp it, they give it to you. Okay. You also need to have your TM30, your house registration. In my situation, I own a condo. My name's on the chano of the condo, so it makes it real simple. Otherwise, you need to have paperwork from your rental agreement and some documentation from the owner of the person that you're renting it from. The other option is that you show, if you don't have the 800K to put in a Thai bank account, you need to show that you're making now a passive income of 1,800 a month. So I know a lot of Americans would be able to get this with their Social Security. I think the average Social Security is like around 2,000 something. So if you're in that camp, you can use that to get it, and you don't need to, put this deposit into your account. Or you can have a combination of annual income plus bank deposit totaling at least 800,000. So you can combine these two as well. Personally, I think the easier you make it for yourself, the less paperwork that you can make for yourself, the easier the process is. The Thai Long-Term Resident LTR Visa 10-year renewable program designed to attract high-potential foreigners. It's valid for an initial 5 years with an option to extend for another 5. Eligibility categories. Applicants must qualify under one of the following 4 primary categories: wealthy global citizens, individuals with at least 1 million in assets and investments of $500,000 in Thai government bonds, direct investment, or Thai property. So you buy a property, if you got that kind of money, you can do it. I personally went buy government bonds. Return on it's not that great, but it's certainly an option if you don't want to own the property, if you don't want to sink that much into a property. Another way is the wealthy pensioners, and that is age 50 plus with a passive income pension of 80 grand a year. Or if income is 40,000 to 880,000, they must also invest 250K in Thai assets. And I'm currently considering, this one here, because I already own a house and I own a condo, and however, I bought both of those properties at a steal, guys. I scored my condo in Bangkok for around $40,000 right at the end of 2017. I cashed out a bunch of my crypto at that time when it had pumped, and I bought this place and renovated it. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's now worth probably about 80K, but they're only going to count the money that I put into it. So I paid about 40K. I bought my house during COVID in 2021, and I got a steal of a deal on that one. A really good deal. I got it at roughly a 20% discount of what they had offered, or what they had put it on the market. So I walked away with that one really good. And they're now selling houses smaller houses in my gated community for more than what I bought mine for, and they're 1/3 smaller in square meters. So I got a great deal on that one. But I'm thinking about, buying another property possibly, or selling one and upgrading it to qualify for this one, because look at this, guys. Then there's this one. This one's interesting too. Remote workers, but I'm not a worker, so I can't really use that one. I do have the master's degree. Highly skilled professional experts working in target industries for Thai companies, government agencies, similar income reports. Dependents get it as well. But check this out. This is the good one. So you also need health insurance. You need to have minimum of 50,000 coverage in Thailand, or Social Security benefits. So if you got some sort of you need to find out more information about that. Or you need to have 100K deposit in a Thai bank. So, one of those three. There's a fee of $1,500, one-time fee. Here's another one. If working in Thailand, an additional 3,000 baht. So these are the benefits that you get from it. And some of these are pretty solid. So 10-year stay, renewable after 5 years, reduced reporting instead of doing the 90-day reporting like most people have to do. But you can do it online now, so it's not that big a deal. But you don't need to do that. You only need to do it once a year. Here's the big one though. Tax benefits. 17% personal income tax for highly skilled professionals. Tax exemption on foreign sourced income for other categories. So if you're, making your money off of trading or doing whatever, your investments, it's outsourced. It's exempt. And that's a big deal, because there's been a lot of chatter about how they want to tax foreigners here. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to do it, but it's something that you need to consider as Thailand has become more modernized. Will they pull it? Will they actually be able to push it on them? Possibly. And this would, exempt you from having to pay any taxes, which is a big deal if you're making good money. You also get this little perk. You get fast access track, in major international airports. So the ones in Thailand, I would imagine no one gives a shit about outside of Thailand, but in the major airports here in Thailand, you get VIP access. And also there's this one. If you wanted to work, you wanted to do something, maybe you wanted to consult or maybe do something on the side to keep you busy, you get an exemption from the 4 Thai employee per one foreigner rule for employers. So, some small business might want to hire you, and you don't have to, you get exemption from this aspect, which is good. So yeah, this is something to consider. The other one that I looked at, guys, is this one, and that is if you're under 50 and you wanted to be living here, there's the Destination Thailand visa. It's a flexible 5-year multiple entry visa launched in mid-2024 to accommodate digital nomads, remote workers, and those engaging in Thai soft power activities. So this one's much easier. It costs less money. I don't know how much easier it is, but it seems to work. So you got to be at least 20. You got to show that you got 15,300 in a bank in bank statements or liquid assets. It could be your stock portfolio or whatever as well, I would imagine, right? You have to apply for this outside of Thailand. The other ones you can do with inside of Thailand. And it gives you this ability, you can basically, if you're working online, you can do this, or you need to have a portfolio. I don't know how this would work out with a stock trader. Maybe you just show your profits, and I really don't know. But for some people that are into digital, social media or whatever, or working online, this is a good option. Here's another one, soft power activities. So if you're training, if you're like learning, Thai, Muay Thai or culinary training, how to cook Thai food, you can use this. If you're doing some sort of medical treatment or sports training, seminars, music festivals, or art events, right? You can use that. The other one that I looked at for some of you that might work was this one. Yeah, this is the education visa. This one's interesting. This one you can enroll in a recognized language school or Muay Thai type of program, and you can, or culinary school or something like this, cooking school, and you can get this one. So these are the things that you would need, typical stuff. One thing that the school that you're going to be attending, it needs to be approved from the Ministry of Education. That's a big deal, so you got to make sure that that's happening. But here, the funds, evidence of adequate funds, typically 20,000 baht for individuals, and I would imagine this is probably got to be your monthly fee, right? It's not going to be yearly for sure. So you need to show that you got 20,000 baht a month for a certain period of time. Tuition receipt, proof of at least 50% deposit, and criminal. These may vary, right? You might need to have a criminal background check. They'll do it if you're attending some sort of higher level education, like universities or whatever. Then you get all this, but it's a proof of residence document like rental agreement TM30 once in Thailand, so you get that as well. Medical insurance, not always mandatory. Some consulates may require it. It's weird how these things are wishy-washy. Some places require it, some places don't. So, yeah, this is an option, guys, if you don't have as much money and you want to learn how to speak Thai, and I would recommend that you all learn how to speak some Thai if you're going to live here. It makes your stay much easier. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there, guys. This has been a long video. Hope you're all doing well, and monger on.